Hey YouTubies, it's been a while since I've made a video, and I've been going down another rabbit hole. Put a lot of thought into this one. For those who've followed my work, they know that I've exposed the Chronide cult of Semitic religion as basically a cult based on this ancient family that I call the Chronides. And I have shown over and over through ancient writings out of the Loeb Library, the British Library, and various other scholarly works based on worldwide pagan religions that this family was the same group of gods and goddesses throughout all cultures, including Semitic religion. But what we aren't doing is getting to the core of what's going on here and connecting it to this new imagery of the Greys and this so-called alien race of androgynous reptilian type creatures. And I put a lot of thought into this, and you could argue that ancient petroglyphs have always shown these tall, large-eyed beings. And the modern Hollywood people are now just, again, using it for a sidetrack new religion. However, I've really thought about it and thought, really? Is there something to it? Is there something to what David Icke talks about, what UFO abductees have talked about, etc., etc.? Now, first of all, I don't believe anything came from outer space. I've already stated that. I've stated that the stories have changed over and over and over. And as I just said, there are ancient petroglyphs all over the world. And even in some of the ancient cultures of these large-eyed reptilian androgynous creatures. But is it talked about in the ancient writings? And the answer is yes. It is basically revealed in the Nag Hammadi library that Cronus was an androgynous being. And some of the children that he made were also androgynous beings, and that he also, along with his androgynous angels, mated with human women and created the Nephilim. I'm going to read a little bit again from the Nag Hammadi library. Now, from the Apocryphon of John. I'm going to just read a couple things. It says, "Now the Archon who is weak has three names. The first name is Yaldabaoth, the second is Saklas, and the third is Samael. And he is impious in his ignorance, which is in him. For he said, I am God, and there is no other God beside me. For he is ignorant of his strength, the place from which he had come." Now I'm going to skip down a little bit. And it says he has all of these different faces. It goes, and these are the bodies belonging to with the names. The first is Althoth, he has sheep's face. The second is Eloau, he has a donkey's face. The third, Astaphios, he has a hyena's face. The fourth is Yao, he has a serpent's face with 7 heads. The fifth is Sabaoth. He has a dragon's face. The sixth is Adonai. He had a monkey's face. The seventh is Sabadi. He has a shining fire face. This is the seventh of the week. But Yaldabaoth had a multitude of faces, more than all of them, in that he could put a face before all of them, according to his desire, when he is in the midst of seraphs. He shared his fire with them, therefore he became Lord over them. Because of the power of the glory he possessed, of his mother's light, he called himself God. Okay, I'm going to stop. So, before I go on to something next in this Nag Hammadi library, I want to point out that he had to answer to something above him. Yaldabaoth is Cronus. I've proven that out. I'll show you again. He's the same one that was thrown into Tartarus. And his son was brought up by the goddess, which would be Zeus, to take over. Because Yaldabaoth was crazy and abusive towards humans and his power. Pretty much what I've already revealed in the writings of the ancient Phoenician scholar Sanchonathan, who tells you that he was cutting the heads off of his children and murdering them, and human sacrificing children to control the people. And he made the men circumcise themselves, cut their genitals. So I'm going to stop for a minute. We're going to go to another page. But like I said, keep in mind that he had to answer to something higher than him. Okay, I want to go to another part in this Nag Hammadi library. And it is page 168 of my book, which is in a chapter called The Hypostasis of the Archons. And I'm going to read a little bit. This is what it says. And this is about Yaldabaoth. Please listen closely. It says, "This ruler, by being androgynous, made himself a vast realm, an extent without limit, and he contemplated creating offspring for himself, and created for himself 7 offspring, androgynous, just like their parent. And he said to his offspring, 'It is I who am the God of entirety.' And Zoe, whose life, the daughter of Pistis Sophia, cried out and said to him, 'You are mistaken, Sakla, for which the alternative name is Yaldabaoth.' She breathed into his face, and her breath became a fiery angel for her. And that angel bound Yaldabaoth and cast him down into Tartarus below the abyss. Now, when his offspring, Sabaoth, saw the force of that angel, he repented and condemned his father and his mother Matter. He loathed her, but he sang songs of praise up to Sophia and her daughter Zoe. And Sophia and Zoe caught him up and gave him charge of the 7th heaven, below the veil between above and below. And he is called God of the forces, Sabaoth, since he is up above the forces of chaos. For Sophia established him." I'm going to skip down a little bit. It says, "Now when Yaldabaoth saw him in this great splendor and at a height, he envied him, and the envy became an androgynous product. And this was the origin of envy. And envy engendered death, and death engendered his offspring, and gave each of them charge of its heaven. And all the heavens of chaos became full of their multitudes. But it was by the will of the Father of the entirety that all came into being, after the pattern of all the things above, so that the sum of chaos might be attained." Okay, I'm going to quit reading. Well, actually, I'll just say one more thing. It just says, "There I have taught you about the pattern of the rulers and the matter in which it was expressed, and their parent and the universe." Okay. So, what this is saying is basically that Yaldabaoth, who is Yahweh, I've proven that out. I've read different things from Sanchonathan and Diodorus Siculus to show you that Cronus was the god laughing at the giants at the Tower of Babel when it fell due to winds. And I've showed you before that he's the one that was thrown into Tartarus with the Titans that rebelled. It also shows you that his son was brought up to rule, which is what they did with Zeus. And it's telling you that not only was this Cronus an androgen, but he was creating children or offspring that were androgens, But yet all of them were also mating with human women, and the human women brought forth giants who became the Nephilim and abused the average size human and ate them and killed them and tortured them. And that is why they were condemned. And they were, given knowledge to the humans as well. But as I just said, this androgynous being had to answer to his mother and other people higher than himself. Now, these Gnostics who wrote these books that are in this Nag Hammadi library were hunted down and killed off on this planet. And they believe their God is the God of light. And sometimes they are favorable to Jesus Christ, and sometimes they're not. They believe that they had a higher form of truth that was revealed. And the truth that was what was given to them was the nature of the rulers being androgynous and what had happened in the past. So their beliefs did not jive with Semitic religion, just as the pagans who had knowledge of these beings didn't jive with it, and all of these people were hunted down, exterminated, and their knowledge was basically hidden. The Semitic priests attempted to eradicate this knowledge, but they can't. It is coming back, and they can't get rid of everything. But whether you believe that Cronus and some of his offspring were androgynous or not doesn't matter. The fact is, this is one of the secrets of these Semitic religions. This is their belief. This is what they were believing was the big secret. Now, when you start looking at ancient religions, all of these gods always had a female side associated with them, especially in Hinduism. And sometimes they were represented as a female and a male. Zeus was said sometimes to be a maid, although he was always shown very masculine. But when you start to really dig into how his mating with human women was described, it's rather curious, because he was always described as appearing as something non-human to these women and impregnating them. In some cases, he was a shower of gold. In others, he was a bull. In others, he was a snake to them. There really is never any kind of explicit description of human sexual relationship between this god and a human, as well as the rest of these gods and humans. The only thing I tend to see is that they took whatever they want and somehow made the women pregnant. And these women were under a mind control. Just as modern day abductees describe some of their abductions and removal of egg and sperm while under some sort of mind control to think that there was some kind of sexual contact going on, yet they knew it wasn't, that there was a mechanical machine or some kind of a mechanical removal of their reproductive parts, not physical parts, but their reproductive elements such as egg or sperm. Then you get into movies like Dogma. And there are two scenes, you could look this up. One of them is Alan Rickman as Metatron comes in to this woman who's supposed to be a scion, they call her, one of the descendants of Jesus, a relationship to him. And she thinks he's going to rape her. And he's like, come on, angels aren't equipped to rape anybody. And he pulls his pants down and he has no male genitalia. He looks like a Ken doll, a mannequin, or, if you will, what these gray aliens are described as, or a reptilian type creature that might simply have something called a cloaca. And a cloaca is one hole that has the purpose of eliminating urine and feces and also exiting of reproductive material. And reptiles and birds tend to have cloacas. Mammals have separation of their reproductive orifices versus their waste expulsion orifices. Then in the movie Dogma, they have Salma Hayek lifting up her skirt to reveal she also does not have female genitalia. She is like Metatron. Now, we have the Semitic religion that has been forced on us through violence and lies. And what does it require? It requires that you mutilate your children's genitals through circumcision, males and females. And if you're intelligent enough to finally figure out that this is a scam, you're called a Nazi for saying anything about it, or an anti-Semite. To say, why are you trying to con us into mutilating our children's genitals? Which is child abuse. It's mutilation, both for the boys and girls, and it has to stop. And I believe in Europe, it is considered child abuse. And look what they're doing in Europe, flooding them with Muslims who are Semitic religion, trying to force this nonsense cult on people that had had enough of it. And in America, it is highly prevalent. And as a mother, they try, basically con me into it as well. Trying to tell me that it was a hygiene issue for boys. And now we know also in America that these Muslims are performing female genital mutilation as well. The female genital mutilation is worse. It cuts off the entire clitoris. They have urination problems. But it is also terrible for the men. You're cutting off the foreskin. And they do have problems. They can have meatal stenosis, mutilation of the penis because things aren't done properly. And basically shouldn't be doing this at all. They shouldn't be doing this at all. But the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I believe it has something to do with these androgens. And I think, based on what UFO abductees have talked about, tanks of hybrids, that there may be a hierarchy. And something that has always been here on this planet that lives under the ground in these military bases. And these blonde Nordics are the hybrids between a human and a gray. And when the hybrids made it with humans, they created Nephilim, who probably did have genitalia, but were bigger and mentally superior and able to control your mind. And they abused humans. And they had to be removed. And so there's a protocol that it may go gray alien, Nordic hybrid, human, and the only mating allowed is between this gray alien and humans to create the angels, which are these Nordics. And they've always been described as snow white and blonde and blue-eyed. That is just the way it is. And this could have been something that's was at one point under the ground, and these religions are just memories of it, or it still is. And I'm leaning towards it still is. And when you see movies like Dogma, where Alan Rickman is pulling his pants down, he has no genitalia, and Salma Hayek does the same thing, it's like they're giving away something they know. And we know that these Semitic cults run Hollywood and the music industry, and they just can't help themselves but reveal what their belief system is. But I do believe there's something more here. And it's not just simply symbolic. Even the Hindu gods were always associated with an androgynous characteristic. So this is some more food for thought. I'm going to make one more video and wrap things up on this channel. And that's about it for now. Thank you.